Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be doing something different on the channel. We're going to be doing a tier list of some Marvel Snap cards. So we're going to do a couple of these videos, but the first one we're going to do is the starter cards and pool 1. So there's a lot of cards to get through today, so we're going to put them in a tier list, kind of, the best, what I think are the best cards, what I think are the worst cards, and we'll just kind of discuss, what some of the cards do and what I think work in a lot of decks, and some cards that work for specific decks, and we're just going to go through it and have a bunch of fun. So let's get straight into it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up the video and let me know in the comments what your favorite card is from this tier list. All right, let's do it. So we'll just do them in order. Abomination is a 5 power, 8 cost. Doesn't have any abilities. I'm going to put this in the C category. It works in specific decks with Patriot, but you're not unlocking that for a while. Yeah, very average card. Chavez, I'm going to put in the S tier, as Chavez can be used in pretty much not any deck, but there's lots of decks that Chavez can be used in. You always draw it last, so very powerful card. You get a 9 power guaranteed every game, unless it gets destroyed, of course. Angela, another amazing card. Works in a variety of decks, getting +2 power for each card played in that location. With things like Nightcrawler, you can play Nightcrawler, move it around, get Angela to some big numbers. Great card. Angel, I'm going to put as B tier. Angel works in specific destroy decks. Other than that, not anything amazing. Apocalypse, I'm going to put as A tier. Apocalypse works very well in discard decks. Very strong card, but I guess can't be played in everything, but overall very strong card. Armor, I'm going to put in A tier as well. Armor has stopping cards from being destroyed at a location, can be really powerful. It can kind of block destroy decks, which is really cool. But it can also get around some tricky locations that would otherwise destroy cards. So Armor, really, really cool card. Bishop, I'm going to put as S tier, I think. Bishop is just, all round plenty of... can get pretty big with specific decks, but overall you can buff this with any deck. I think that's what gives it that S tier rating. Blade, I'm going to put in, let's say A tier. I think Blade is a strong, you know what, let's go B tier. Blade is a strong discard card. 3 power for 1 cost is quite good, but it does discard a card, so if you're playing it in anything other than a discard orientated deck, it could be considered weak. Cable, we're going to put in B tier as well. Cable destroys a card that your opponent destroys the top card of your opponent's deck. As of right now, this actually guarantees that it destroys Chavez, which is kind of crazy. So you'll find Cable in some decks to achieve that. But I think we'll put it as B. Captain America, probably going to put that as B as well. Its ability is pretty cool. The cards at the location get +1 power. It's really only buffing 3 power, unless there's some shenanigans going on with cards and locations. But I think B tier is fine. Carnage, I'm also going to put at B. It destroys all the cards at the location, gets +2. Really good synergies with cards like Angel and other destroy cards in a destroy orientated deck. But other than that, not crazy. Cosmo is going to go in S tier on reveal. Cosmo blocks on reveal abilities at this location. Sorry, he's ongoing. Pretty crazy. Can pretty much just lock out specific decks. So plenty of uses for Cosmo. So we're going to put him there. Cyclops, we're just going to put in D tier. Yeah, no abilities. Just a 3/4 kind of whatever. Unless I guess paired up with Patriot or, in certain decks. Deathlock is probably B tier as well. Again, works well in destroyed decks, but other than that, not too useful. Devil Dinosaur, I want to say S tier, but I'd probably put it in A. Obviously a strong card if you have a large hand, but then there's going to be decks where you don't have a large hand most of the time. Yeah, overall really great card, but I think my S tier is kind of reserved for those cards that you just have broken abilities or can just be used in a lot of decks. Doctor Strange we're going to put in B tier as well. He moves the highest strength card, highest power card to the location. Great in move decks. Other than that, not too useful from what I've found. Domino we're putting in D tier. Domino is you always draw it on turn 2. There's plenty of other cards you could put in that place. Electra I'm going to put in S tier. Just destroying a 1 cost early in the game can be pretty detrimental. Yeah, overall a pretty good card for a 1-drop. Nothing more really to say about Electra. Enchantress I'm also going to put in S tier. Just removes all ongoing abilities at the location. Again, can just completely shut down a deck just by playing this, you know, turn 5, turn 6 and just win a location. Very similar to Cosmo, just doing the opposite. So instead of blocking on reveals, you're blocking ongoing. Really, really strong card. Forge, I'm going to put in B tier as well. Gives +2 to the next card played. Pretty weak for a 2-cost card. I guess you're essentially getting 3 power, but can have some really strong synergies. Groot, we're going to put in C tier on reveal. He gets, I think, +4 if your opponent played a card there. Pretty lackluster ability. Hawkeye, I'm also going to put here. You play a card on your next turn, he gets +2. Kind of, they're very simple abilities. They're not super powerful or anything. Heimdall, I'm going to put in A tier. Now, this card is extremely powerful, moving all your cards 1 location to the left. But I think S tier is really reserved for cards that can be played in multiple decks. Heimdall is kind of just for move decks, and that's about it. But overall, still a strong card. Hulkbuster, I'm going to put in B tier. Has a lot of... Whoa. Oh, no. There we go. I thought we just lost everything. Hulkbuster, he merges with a card at the location and keeps that card's ability. So, can have some crazy synergies, but I think, again, played in very specific decks. Hulk, we're going to put in C tier. I mean, 11 power, it's kind of weak as you unlock more cards, but in the early game, I mean, it's fine. We'll just leave Hulk there. Iron Fist, we're going to put as B tier as well. Great synergies with move decks again, but on its, like, as a card, it's kind of average, I guess. Can get cards into, like, some tricky locations, though. So, a pretty cool card. Iron Man, I think we're going to put as S tier. Just doubles the power of your location. Very strong in a lot of decks. You know, can be sort of a filler card as well if you're missing a spot in those higher costs. So I think Iron Man definitely a very good card. Jessica Jones is... I think I have to put it in D tier. It's 8 power for 5 cost, and it gets +2 if you don't play cards there, so it ends up at 10. Oh, maybe we can put it in C, I guess. Kazar is... is this an S tier? I think we have to put it in A. It gives +1 to all your 1-cost cards. I think because, again, you're relying on those 1-cost cards, it's probably not super like universal, but it is otherwise still a very strong card. Claw, I'm also going to put as A tier. +5 power to the location on the right. Can... you know, kind of throw your opponent off when you've got a full location and then play a Claw. Very cool card. Korg. Korg's an interesting one. It's a 1-cost. Adds a rock to your opponent's deck. Probably not super useful in too many decks. I guess it's probably a C tier. I mean, it can hinder your opponent a little bit, which can be good. It's fine as a 1-drop, I guess. Kraven, very powerful in move decks. I'm going to put Kraven in the B tier. When a card moves to his location, he gets +2, and there can be a lot of moving in move decks that can get Kraven to pretty high numbers. But again, relies on a lot of synergies, so only useful in certain decks. Lady Sif is very strong in discard decks. Can be played in some other decks with pool 3 cards. So I'm going to give it a B tier again. It's a 2-cost 4 power, which is pretty strong. And it always discards the highest cost card in your hand. It's almost to A tier, but again, the lack of decks that it can be played in makes it probably just at the upper echelon of the B tier, I guess. Lizard. I think I have to put Lizard in B as well. Since it's buff, it's now got 5 power. It's a cool card, but I mean, it has an obvious weakness when someone fills up the location, becomes a 2 power, which is not amazing. Mantis, I'm going to put in B as well. Cool ability, it steals a card from your opponent if they play a card at that location. Useful in like decks where you want multiple cards in your hand, want lots of cards in your hand for like Devil Dinosaur. So it's like almost a C tier, but I think its use in some strong decks makes it B. Medusa, it's 4 power if you played in the center. Very average card. Mr. Fantastic, I'm going to put in B tier as well. Cool ability, +2 to adjacent locations. Can help at winning like locked down locations, things like that. So yeah, Mr. Fantastic's fine. Mizir Sinister is... I'm going to put it in B tier as well. It has some synergies with certain decks, cloning itself with things like Hulkbuster, etc. But otherwise, pretty like relies on synergies as well. Misty Knight is just a terrible card. 1 power, 2 cost with no abilities just seems awful. So we'll leave Misty there. Moon Girl, probably B tier as well. Or duplicating your hand can be pretty powerful. So maybe put Moon Girl in A, I think. I mean, you can do some crazy things when you unlock cards later in the game. Really strong with Devil Dinosaur. Can work in a few decks. So we'll give Moon Girl an A tier. Morph is an interesting one. Playing it late, you can usually steal a big card from your opponent, get its power. But I think overall just a B tier there. Multiple Men, similar with all the move cards, relies on a lot of synergies. It is quite a powerful card though, when used, when used well. Like a Hulkbuster on a Multiple Man, move it around a bunch, it clones itself, is pretty cool. But I still think it is a B tier, probably higher in the B tier as well. Neymar is, it's a tough one. 4 cost, it can be 10 power, but it does restrict what you can play at that location. I probably have to put that in B tier as well. Nightcrawler, in my opinion, S tier. Yes, its ability, it's only a 1 cost, 2 power, but its ability to be able to move it anywhere is kind of insane. Once per game. So, you can move, a location unlocked that you can't play cards there. You move Nightcrawler there and you just generally can just win that location. Also got some synergies with certain locations where it can move to a location and get buffs. It's just a versatile card. I mean, you could have 4 cards at a location. Your opponent thinks, well, they can't get any more power there. You move Nightcrawler out if they're not paying attention, and drop a big card there to finish the game. I definitely think Nightcrawler's undervalued by people. I think it's a great card. Nova, able to buff everything once it's destroyed. I think that's also B tier. Kind of goes hand in hand with all the destroy cards. Odin, in my opinion, is an S tier card. You're reactivating the on reveal cards at the location. You can have some crazy synergies with this card. When there's some locations that also buff on reveals, can be some crazy shenanigans with Odin. Used in a variety of decks and just an overall powerful ability. So definitely a S tier in my opinion. Onslaught, same thing. I think just very powerful, doubling your ongoing abilities at a location. And double Claw, double Iron Man, do some crazy stuff there. Double Devil Dinosaur. So I think Onslaught, definitely S tier. Used in a variety of decks as well. Professor X is a very cool card. Able to fully lock down a location. I'm going to put it in the A tier. Not able to use it in every single deck, but I mean, it is an extremely powerful ability. Not only does it lock down the location from playing cards there, it also blocks cards from being moved there, from cards, duplicating to there. So Professor X, very powerful card. Punisher, I'm probably putting in C tier. Gets +1 power for each card your opponent plays at the location. Can get like decent numbers, but I guess it relies on your opponent playing cards there. Quicksilver, we're definitely putting in the bottom tier. You always draw it on turn 1. There's plenty of better 1 cost cards you could play in that slot. Rocket Raccoon, we're going to put in C tier. It gets a buff if your opponent plays a card on that turn in the same location. Fine to use at the start of the game, but pretty average otherwise. Scarlet Witch, I'm going to put in A tier. Now, a lot of people don't like Scarlet Witch when they start the game because it can change the location to, I guess, something less than ideal. But Scarlet Witch can like win you locations that you otherwise wouldn't be able to win in a game. I've had some crazy situations where, like let's for instance, the TVA was in play, and I just didn't have a way to win. On turn 4, Scarlet Witch the location. The opponent pretty much threw out as many cards as they could, and then I ended up being able to win that game and get a full 8 cubes. So Scarlet Witch can be really strong if played well. Sentinel, I think we go B tier for Sentinel. It adds another Sentinel to hand. This can be really good in specific decks that require lots of cards in hand. It can just give you another 2 power to play when you don't have much in hand. Yeah, it's a fine card. Shocker, we're going to put in D. Again, no abilities. Only really powerful with, I guess, you know, Patriot. I don't know if there's any other combos at the moment that exist. Spectrum, we're going to go... I think we go S tier. I think that kind of breaks my rule in that you can only really play Spectrum in a deck with lots of ongoing cards. Spectrum buffing ongoing by +2. But I think the ability is powerful enough that I can put it in S tier. That kind of goes against, like, I put Kazar in A, but I think Kazar's only buffing by 1. Spectrum buffing by 2 is pretty insane. I guess Kazar is a 4 power though. I guess I have to put Spectrum in the A tier by my own rules. Spider-Woman, on reveal, all the cards get your opponent's cards at that location get -1. The field a location, I mean -4. It's pretty powerful. I'm going to put that in A tier. Squirrel Girl adds +1 power. Adds squirrels, 1 power squirrels to the other 2 locations. I mean, it can win locations that are locked down, but it's not doing anything like super crazy. It's filling up your board, which sometimes is also a negative effect. Star-Lord, I'm putting in C tier. Again, just gets buffed if your opponent played cards in that location that turn. Strong Guy, I'm going to put in B tier as well. Strong Guy, I mean, it can get to 10 power with an empty hand, but it does rely on that. So, you know, you can only play it in very specific decks as well. Since it got nerfed, it's pretty average now. Swordmaster, I'm also going to put in B tier. Discards a random card from your hand. Good in discard decks, strong power, but other than that, doesn't have a whole lot of benefits. Thing, no abilities, just a 4 cost, 6 power. Plenty of better cards you can play in this instead of Thing. Again, if you have Patriot, I mean, there are some combos there. The Watcher, probably, I think B as well. You can see locations before they reveal, which is pretty powerful. But again, it's just a 1 cost, 2 power. I guess it's probably the upper areas of B. You won't find it. Actually, probably not finding the Watcher in a lot of decks. With the way the game works with the cube system, if you get a bad location, you can just retreat for 1 cube. So, I mean, not knowing exactly what the locations are isn't, you know, detrimental every game. White Queen, I reckon, is definitely A tier. White Queen, you draw a copy of the highest cost card in your opponent's hand. You can draw things like Apocalypse. You can draw things like, I'm just looking at what we've got here, Odin, Onslaught, Iron Man. That's some pretty like powerful cards. Spectrum even, that you can get in hand. And I guess you now know what's in your opponent's hand as well. So you can kind of, I guess, predict what their turn 5, turn 6 could be, and counter it with your own turn 6 card that you still 6 cost card that you stole. Well, I guess you didn't steal it, you copied it. White Tiger, I'm just going to put in A tier. I mean, it's a 1 power, which is like pretty awful for a 5 cost, but you do copy a 7 power to another location. It's a pretty average card. It's probably almost B tier, but it does have some synergies with Odin that you can use very early on. So I think the card's fine. I mean, if you can get Odin onto it, you can get some, 2 7 powers, which is pretty cool. So I think it's a fine card with a pretty common synergy there. Wolfsbane, I'm gonna put it in A tier actually. You can usually get this to 7 power pretty easily. I guess it's kind of like a worse version of like Angela and Bishop, in that it relies on the cards already being there, so you need to play this later. I think we'll put it in the lower area, the lower end of A tier. Wolverine, I'm going to put in B tier. Relies on being discarded or destroyed. Of course, there's discard and destroy decks, so you could essentially play Wolverine in either of them. But yeah, I don't think its ability is like super insane or anything. And then Yondu, I'll put Yondu in B as well. He removes the top card of your opponent's deck. Although right now, Yondu is pretty cool in that it discards the top card of your opponent's deck. I think I said that of another card earlier, but I definitely meant Yondu. I'm trying to think what I mentioned that a Cable. I said that about Cable. That is not what Cable does. Cable draws the top card of your opponent's deck. Yondu destroys the top card of your opponent's deck, which is actually, let's put it in the upper end of B tier, purely because Yondu can just destroy Chavez if it's in your opponent's deck, which is just like, I guess, a strong ability in itself. And really the only reason Yondu's kind of played in certain decks at the moment. I mean, just destroying a 1 cost or something is like pretty lackluster. But the fact that it can destroy high cost cards like Chavez pretty consistently is very cool. Alright guys, just checking out. I'm just having a look at this tier list. So as you can see, a majority of the cards fall into this middle area, which I guess for a card game kind of makes sense. You want cards that have good abilities but not broken abilities, and you also want them to be like good enough to be played. We do have a few cards in the lower tiers. These are generally cards you're getting at the start of the game, and then as you progress, you generally aren't going to be using many of them. So not too nothing like really telling in that. We've got some great top tier cards here as well. So I think overall it's quite a good spread in the early game of cards that you receive, allowing you to make a variety of decks while still being able to have fun. Oh, pardon me, it is freezing right now in Australia. I need to crank the heater up. But yeah, so you've got some really a lot of variety in the early game, which I think is great for new players. And overall, you can have a ton of fun with these cards. Guys, let me know what you think you would change in the tier list. Is there any cards you would bump up? Is there any cards you would put down? Have I absolutely obliterated this tier list? Is it absolutely terrible? Let me know in the comments. Or if you agree with some of these things, yeah, just let me know. I want to hear from you guys. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll be doing some more tier lists in the future. We'll do pool 2. We'll do pool 3 once I've unlocked, I guess, more or all of those cards and played with them. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.